What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Action Industries for another movie review. My name is Ben Bateman, and tonight I'm going to be talking to you guys about G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes. I want to make sure I'm getting that title correctly. It's just listed here on IMDb now as Snake Eyes, so maybe that title has been officially changed. I'm not really sure. What I'm going to do is talk to you guys pretty honestly about this movie. I'm going to try to give you guys the scoop, everything about it that I liked, the things about it that I didn't like, where it came from, and all of that. I'm going to try to do it kind of quickly here because ultimately there's a lot to say about this movie, but this is going to be spoiler free. I just want you guys to know what you're walking into if you go see Snake Eyes, and maybe if you watch it, you'll find that your opinion reflects my opinion. So this movie is directed by Robert Schwentke. This is somebody who you guys might know some of his movies. He did the gigantic Flop with Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds, R.I.P.D. He also did Red, which is pretty good. I like Red quite a bit. It's a pretty big cast. Most notably, you have Henry Golding. He is the namesake character. He plays Snake Eyes. Now, I'm somebody who had a bunch of G.I. Joe toys as a kid. I watched some of the cartoon. I had a bunch of like trading cards, like G.I. Joe cards. Still, I didn't really know a lot about the story or the history. I do remember, I think there was a movie in the late 80s that I might have watched as a kid. It was always kind of synonymous with Transformers for me when I was a kid because I had the Transformers animated tape, the VHS of the movie from 86, and I think that there was a G.I. Joe movie around the same time. All that being said, it's been a long time for me. I couldn't have really told you a whole lot about Snake Eyes. I could have told you there was Snake Eyes and there was Storm Shadow, the ninja dressed in white, and I was hoping that we would get to see them both. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what you do see in this movie is you get some Snake Eyes, you get some Storm Shadow, and then you get a little bit of background and stuff that's made up to support the idea of this story. I'm going to give you guys some of the best and the worst here in just a second, but if you are watching and you would like to continue seeing what we're doing here on Action Industries, hit that subscribe button. Do me a favor, hit that notification bell. You guys will know when we go live, when we post trailer reactions, movie reviews, and of course, what are your thoughts on Snake Eyes? Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think. Straight shot out of a cannon, this movie's not very good. I'm going to say that as my opener. I'm not going to try to give too much away to you guys. However, I don't think that everything about this movie that is being said on social media right now is totally accurate. I do think that this movie was underwhelming. I went in with pretty low expectations just because this is an IP that they're trying to sell and set up future films. That's very clear. When you watch this, it's obvious that they're sowing seeds for things that we want to see in other films later on down the line. That's clear. They want to sell toys. I get it. Look, a lot of this movie looks really cool. Henry Golding looks awesome dressed up as Snake Eyes. And I promise you, getting any kind of a toy or any kind of a model that looks like him dressed up, that's going to look awesome. So is getting anything of the character Tommy, who is Storm Shadow in the film. That will be awesome too, right? Like, so the things that they're trying to do that I think the point of this movie kind of ultimately is for Paramount, those things work. A lot of the gadgets look really cool. A lot of the stuff that sets up in this movie to kind of sell it feels a lot like a video game movie. That's the part of it that I'm sort of confused by. When they go to a video game, for instance, the last Tomb Raider film, and they try to adapt it, what they want to do is take a bunch of story from the game and they want to take that and they want to write around it. Well, there is no known background of Snake Eyes that everyone talks about. This wasn't like accurate to source material. They got to kind of make this up as they went along. And what we ended up with was a pretty poor script, performances that, whether or not they would have been good with a better script, feel kind of mailed in overall. Golding's accent goes in and out throughout the film quite a bit, which is weird and surprising. He has quite a bit of dialogue in the movie, but it's not like he has like really big dramatic moments a lot of the time. I mean, ultimately, he's got a lot of action sequences. My biggest disappointment in this movie, honestly, the thing that I'm the most sad about, is the fact that there are so many sword fights. They're ninjas. They look awesome. They have double swords and single swords, and there's so much of that, and it's all like super close in. You don't see awesome sword fights. What I wanted to walk out of this movie feeling was that even if the plot was kind of weak and the script wasn't great, the performances were medium, I wanted cool action, and I specifically wanted cool martial arts and great sword fights. They try. There are certain moments. The characters look cooler posing with their swords than they do fighting with their swords. They went for it. They go way over the top with a lot of the big sequences, whether it's the action sequences, some of the sort of the adversaries, we'll say, that the characters end up having to go against. They really go for it. They try to go the extra mile. The final thing I will say is that there is a device used in this film that elevates the film from kind of a little bit grounded, and granted, it's a G.I. Joe movie. It's not totally grounded. Characters are jumping around, riding backwards on motorcycles like you saw in the trailer, but there's a supernatural element that they add to this movie that is confusing and totally unnecessary. It's got to be the number one thing that when it happens in the movie, you feel like, why? Why didn't somebody figure out that this just didn't need to be in this movie? We could have just done this, but without that, and they do it anyway. So it's very strange. I think the things about this movie are, if you're a little kid, if you're 7 years old right now and you go see this movie, you're probably going to react to these characters visually the same way that I reacted to like Spawn and Venom when I was a little kid. I loved them. I thought they were awesome. The coolest thing in the world. If you grew up owning the toys and what you wanted to do was go to a movie where you got to see like a really cool looking ninja jumping around with swords, you'll probably be pretty satisfied with some of that stuff. I mean, a lot of that stuff, I think the best parts of this movie are the fact that they wanted things to look cool. The plotting could have been better, should have been better. The plotting really should have hooked me. I think if I'm going to give this movie a true rating, I'm probably going to give this a below average rating. I would give this under a 5. I don't totally know exactly what it would be. I'd want to merit out on it a bit more. I think right now this is kind of experiencing a little bit of like a Space Jam type of deal where the world is going nuts about it. I'm sure it's not as bad of a movie as some people are talking about it being, but it certainly isn't the best movie. So if you grew up with G.I. Joe and you want to be entertained, there are parts of this movie that will disappoint you. There are also parts of this movie that are going to look cool, that you'll be happy with. The casting is a little strange. I don't totally like the casting. I think Henry Golding, if his accent had been a little better, might have been a better choice for Snake Eyes, though he's not the worst part of the movie by a mile. There are a lot of parts of this movie that are worse. The actor that plays Tommy, who ends up being Storm Shadow, we'll call that the only spoiler, Andrew Koji, I think he's a little better. There's some strange choices as far as justifying his character, where he comes from. You see him in the trailer quite a bit. One thing I do want to comment on. So when you watch a Marvel movie, let's take WandaVision, okay, a Marvel show. They don't call Wanda Scarlet Witch until the 9th episode of WandaVision, the last episode. And this is after she's already been in Endgame and Infinity War and Age of Ultron, right? She's 5 years in at this point before they call her, 7 years in, 6 years? I can't remember. Anyway, before they call her Scarlet Witch, they find a reason to call her Scarlet Witch, and it makes sense with the story. Literally, when you find out that Tommy is Storm Shadow, like, he's just like, call me Storm Shadow. It was such a frustrating moment of just like, can't you guys try a little harder? I mean, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, very cool sounding names. It would have made a little more sense if there was like slightly more than like a single line that set up his name, but anyway, all that being said, surprising. I'm surprised that they didn't try a little harder on certain parts of the film. The last thing I'll say is that Samara Weaving, who is in this movie, I'm a big fan of her. If you guys remember her in Ready or Not, she's terrific in that movie. She's really, really good in it. I wanted her to be great in this. She's just not in the movie that much. She doesn't have a lot of scenes. The scenes she does have, it's like she has a couple one-liners. If I was her and I watched it, I think I'd be disappointed because I feel like they could have used her. They could have found a way to use her more. She has like basically one fight sequence and then she's in some other big action sequences. So yeah, overall guys, I have to say this movie is disappointing. You know, huge props for Paramount for going for it with G.I. Joe. Again, if this movie spins off into other installments, I absolutely will go see them. If you guys are G.I. Joe fans, I'm sure you'll do the same. You know, it's just kind of the nature of these big IPs that they get recycled, and sometimes you get a big hit, sometimes it's a little bit underwhelming. If we look at some of the X-Men things, X-Men Origins Wolverine, a film with a similar title, is absolutely awful. Several years later, Logan is one of the best comic book films, if not the best comic book film ever made. So you just never know, and it's still the same studio making those movies. So Paramount, next time, perhaps will come out and make one that we're more excited about. But, you know, in this case particularly, I have to be honest with you guys, it was a little bit less than I wanted it to be. So let me know your thoughts. Did you enjoy it? Did you like it less, more than me? I would love to know. Leave a comment below. Hit that subscribe button and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/teamaction if you guys want to get in on the party. Otherwise, enjoy your day. You're probably seeing this in the middle of the night, and I will see you guys in the next one.